Hey, what's up guys, it's Noah. Welcome back to another video on the channel, and today I'm going to be showing you the two chess games that took me back to 900 rating. And 900 rating is about where my highest is. My highest I think is 909, and right now I'm sitting at 903. So one more win will put me into my highest ever chess rating. So with that said, let's get into the video and I will show you the two games that took me to 900 rating. Let's get into it. Okay, so both these games were with the white pieces, and I was inspired by the absolutely lovely Netflix show, The Queen's Gambit, to play that opening, The Queen's Gambit. And we play actually this Indian, East Indian defense, which transposes into a Queen's Gambit declined, where you have this sort of structure in the middle. And I've been playing this move forward. I actually don't know if it's the best move, but I enjoy playing it where it opens up my bishop and then I just stick my bishop, my dark squared bishop there to kind of undo this pin here, which is what I do in this case. And after takes, I mean, I pretty much enjoy my position here. I've got a very active bishop here. And yes, I've moved it twice, but I mean, I'm okay here. They only have one piece out. All of these pieces are still in the back rank, whereas I've got my bishop out, and this bishop is about to come out, and this knight is about to come out. So this bishop is kind of blocked in by this pawn, so it has literally only one move, whereas my bishop has a good diagonal, and if they take preemptively, then I get a really strong opening straight away. And they do take in this scenario, and so like I said, now I have two bishops as opposed to their only knight out. And this is really strong for me. These two bishops kind of laser beaming to the other side of the board, especially now that they've castled kingside. I play my knight out. I'm also looking to castle here. But I mean, this is just a free pawn. Before this move, as you can see, my advantage was about, on the left here, you can see my advantage was about 0.67. So not terribly high, but they just blunder a pawn. And they give my knight a very smooth route forward. And yeah, I'm just kind of settle into my position. I castle, and I'm just up a pawn here. This move actually gives away a lot of advantage because you can take the bishop. You can bring the what is it? Is it knight takes c3? I think it's knight takes c3. Yeah. After knight takes c3, then you can and then takes. You can just go, you can go and take this knight here. So I actually blundered a piece here with this pawn move because after the knight takes and then takes, this knight is free. My opponent doesn't see that, however, and they instead go for a checkmating sort of pattern here with the queen and the bishop. There's a few ways I can defend against this. I could play this move, but that does just hang my rook. It doesn't really hang it, it forces an exchange, which is not ideal, and it also allows this to happen again, which is not really what I wanted to happen. So I play I did actually play the best move in this position, and that's queen f3. And then now when the knight takes and then you go to take the knight, I take your bishop. So now we're completely even again, except I still have the pawn up from the opening. And as you can see, I give that pawn back. Well, I mean, I kind of have to. I have to take the bishop here. I thought about trying to... I saw this, that the queen was coming here to take this pawn, and I thought, is there some way that I can keep this from happening? But there really wasn't. I had to take the bishop, and I think that's my best move, actually, in this position. Is it my best move? Queen takes h3. Yeah, it's my best move. Let's take the bishop and give back the pawn. I'm still okay here, though, because this bishop is still really strong, and my rook is in the middle, whereas my opponent's pieces are kind of inactive on the back rank. We have a little bit of shuffling. I looked for mate here on this corner tile with my queen and bishop, which is, I think, a pretty strong play. I think this queen play was a little bit too passive because it doesn't hit anything that it wasn't already hitting. Right, in this position, you're hitting the rook, but it's guarded, and you're hitting the bishop, but it's guarded by the rook. So your queen's in a good position here. I think what the opponent needed to do was maybe bring the knight like into here, maybe bring a rook or something like that. They needed some sort of reinforcements in their attack instead of just sliding the queen over. And like I said, that shuffling that ensued kind of allowed me to start a kingside attack. And as they pushed this pawn, I realized that if I could just get rid of that pawn with this pawn push here, I'm in great shape. And now I realize that this is kind of hanging, so I kind of have to guard that. But instead of guarding, what I do is actually I go attack the queen instead. Which is actually not the best idea, because now you can just go back and help guard this structure here. But this check kind of allows me the ability to trade off here, and now my bishop is, again, my bishop is super strong in this diagonal, and yeah, but now I hang. Okay, I just said it. My bishop is super strong in this diagonal, right? Super strong, wicked strong, right? That comes here, attacks the bishop, and I just ignore it, and I push the pawn. However, my opponent doesn't see it, and instead goes for check, which is not the best move. No, you should absolutely just take the bishop here and attack the rook. They go check, and after takes, I am down an exchange, but I'm not down any pawns, and I'm not down any crazy amount of material, right? Like we've just traded a bishop or a knight for a rook, maybe. Yeah, like they have a rook, I have a bishop, so it's not horrible, but it's not ideal, right? But now I've got to hold this position. En passant here is actually available, but it just hangs my bishop again, and that's not really what I want to do. So it's actually the best move in this position. Okay, so it wants me to solidify this pawn by pushing h4, but play rook over, looking to take the pawn. They counter strike back, and now, okay, now this side is kind of locked down, right? Because if they end up pushing this, and these two pawns aren't ever really going to break through this one pawn, especially now that it's on a4. Because if this pawn comes here and I take, my pawn's the first to promote, right? Let's count. So if they put, if this, say this pawn's off the board, and this pawn comes to b5 with this pawn on a5, then. Right, yeah, if this pawn's on a5 and this pawn's on b5, then if I take, then they push, I take, or, sorry, I push, they push, I push, they push, and I promote first, right? So, and yes, it's only one score before, and they get to promote right after, but if this is with a check or any sort of, you know, dangerous attack on anything, then I'm winning material here. So that was my thought process behind pushing this a4 pawn. But I also play this h4 move eventually, which in this position is pretty good. It solidifies the center, and I take to the outside, which is actually significantly worse. The computer wants me to take inside here. It's about a point of difference in depth. Like the computer says that it's minus 1.29 if I take with the h pawn, but minus 2.17 for black if I take with the g pawn. I take with the g pawn because I'm thinking that in this endgame I'm going to want these two pawns on the outside of the board, and after they push this pawn, this move is incredibly strong, and I don't play it, but I still think I'm in an okay position here. Because, like I said, I have these two pawns on the outside versus this one, and my rook is kind of holding down these three pawns in the middle, along with my king. My king is super active compared to my opponent's king, which is just kind of hanging out in the corner. So, because even though I have the bishop against the two rooks, my king is making up for that difference, essentially. My opponent pins my bishop to my king, but I'm not really too worried about that. It's not threatening taking, and if this happens, then I'm just going to go... then I will just go, I guess I could go, well, here, I'll show you what I do. But my opponent moves over, and this is why I played this move, was because if they want to come here, then I can come here. But this move actually pretty much straight up loses to King G7, apparently, but my opponent was never going to play that. Not on my level. People don't play king moves like that at this point. But now I can go hit the pawn if I want to whenever I... Is that the best move here? Yeah, bishop takes. Okay. That is the best move here, but I wanted to make sure this pawn didn't come forward with a check. The pawn comes forward, and now I gotta take the pawn. They give a check anyway, and I kind of back away here. I'm kind of baiting. I want to bait the pawn onto this square because my bishop is covering. And I wasn't 100% sure if my opponent would play it, but I was pretty confident that my opponent would play this, either this rook move or this pawn move. And either way, I'm okay here because my bishop is guarding that square. I can play my rook forward and just relax. But they played the pawn forward first, and that kind of threw away my opponent's entire advantage. They are up a pawn, but it doesn't, or they're up, so they're up in exchange, but I have a pawn. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 against 1, 2, 3. And this move just kind of threw away all advantage because now I take, and I'm okay with trading here. I kind of run my king out across a bunch of checks, and now the trades happen. And as you can see, the advantage bar is now gone from, what was it before the trades? It was minus 1.3 after king c1. It was 1.4-ish after I played this move, king d3 for black. And then after this all happens, oh wait, no, that's not what I want to do. After this all happens, this whole trade, I'm now plus 12 because I'm up 2 pawns in an endgame. And yeah, and like I said, the 2 pawns are also, for my opponent, they're met by this a4 pawn, which, like we said before, is really, really strong in guarding against these two. They'd have to take 2 moves to push, and by then I'm just going to be up the board on the other side. And as you can see, I start pushing. Then as soon as the king gets away from this middle pawn, I push it. And they take the back pawn, so I push this side pawn, and the king tries to chase it, but it gets checked. And then I give a couple checks just to make sure I don't stalemate, and then I make another queen, and then it's just a cleanup process from there to make sure I don't blunder anything, which I actually end up doing pretty late on, which is pretty funny. I blunder my queen here. But the last couple moves of the game are just me running my king over, and checkmating with the queen. Because in this position, like, again, the queen blunder is not a huge deal as long as I don't run out of time and I have 2 minutes left, because I just literally, the king can only stay on these squares, so I just run my king over to wherever, not that square, but to wherever the king is. So say if the king comes like to say if the king comes to here, and then I move forward again, like wherever the king goes is checkmate, right? Like as long as my king is within 1 square of their king, then we're fine. If they move here, it's checkmate on multiple well, not multiple squares, it's checkmate here. So I was always winning in this position. But yeah, that was the first game. That took me to, as you can see, 895, and I was very excited, but I was not like overly excited because I knew I was going to play at least 1 more game. No matter what happened, I was planning on playing 2 in a row. And this was against a pretty good opponent. They were rated 916, so it was a little bit higher rated than I was, and I was excited about winning that one. Let's get into the second game. I'm actually recording this part a little bit after because the footage for this game corrupted as I was editing. I don't know. Anyway, let's just get into the second game. Again, I play the Queen's Gambit, and this time it's actually Queen's Gambit with 2 pawns out in the middle with d5 played by the opponent. But this time they play this weird counter gambit, but I'm still comfortable playing this move because it guards everything, right? Like it guards this pawn, it guards this pawn, like it's just very solid. It's a very solid move. And so, well, there's some like, I guess you could call them not mistakes, but the computer calls them inaccuracies. Well, there's some inaccuracies here. We make it out of the opening without blundering anything. Pretty solidly, actually, until this point here. And this is the first like blunder of the game. And I mean, at this point, we're how many moves in? I'd say we're 11 moves in. So, you know, as 900 rated as we are, we're due a blunder or 2. So this Rafael Tango from Russia pushes this pawn here. It's just a free pawn, and it comes with check, and it's actually really devastating because no matter what you block with here, you're in trouble, especially if you block with this knight. Okay, so if you block with this knight, then I take it with the bishop, and it comes with another check. And if you block with the queen, obviously I take the queen. So this is the only good move here. My opponent doesn't find it. I take with check again. And now I go take the rook. And now I am +9 in material. I am up a pawn, a bishop, and a rook for free. I'm just up all of those. And so the rest of this game is honestly me just kind of cleaning up. My opponent plays a couple of moves. This is a really bad blunder. It actually hangs mate in 3, but I didn't see this bishop check, which is the kind of key to it all. I didn't see that. So I go a couple moves without playing it. But then I find this check here, this queen diagonal lined up with the rook, and this is what I was going for when I slid the queen over one square to here. I saw this diagonal was open. This bishop's not stuck, but it's also kind of awkward here. But it actually comes back to deliver the killing blow, as you'll see right here. And the only way for the opponent to block is with the queen, and that's checkmate. So a very, very quick game. I won in 20 moves. Really poor from the opponent. I do want to go back. I also played this move here because I was a little worried about the knight jumping in and then this queen coming in here somehow and hitting. Well, if the knight jumps to here, if the knight jumps here, I can't take it back because it's just a free queen. So I was really worried about this, the queen coming in here for mate, which is why I slid over one square to here as well. Just to keep guarding this, but also monitor this diagonal. And then obviously it came open and I realized that I had a pretty quick checkmate pattern here. But yeah, that's me. I'm a 900 rated chess player once again. It took me a while to get back. I was 909 a while ago, maybe a month or two ago, maybe a month and a half ago. But I finally got back to where I am now. And after a pretty big drop, I would think I was like 820 at one point, but now I'm back up to 903. Hopefully I can continue to climb, and yeah, I will see you all in the next video. If you liked the video, then hit the like button down below and subscribe for more content. Hopefully you'll get notified when I put videos out. So I'll see you all in the next video.